Happy New Year, and welcome to a short edition of the PokePopCast. We're going to do this one just to cover how to riffle shuffle a deck properly. We have the longer video that I did on shuffling in general, and I did a short segment in there about riffle shuffling. But I felt it good to do this as a standalone for a couple of reasons. One, that's a longer video, and if you just want to focus on the actual shuffling, that's what we're going to do here. Number two, there were problems with the sound quality in that part. And number three, the video was straight down, so you weren't really getting a view of the edge-on shuffling, which I think is more important to see. So let's give it a shot. Hopefully people will find this useful as a way to learn how to riffle shuffle properly so that you're not causing damage to your cards, and also, if not more important, other people's cards. Alright, let's give it a shot. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is what most people think of riffle shuffling when they think of riffle shuffling. So, using a deck of playing cards, if we were to riffle shuffle them like this, then you can see that there's a significant bend to the cards. Let's do that again. So you see right there, the cards are very bent, and over time that certainly can and does do damage to the cards. So that's what people are concerned about. Now, there's two things that are different from playing cards from Pokemon cards and sleeves, and that's what we're going to be looking at here. We're going to be looking at shuffling Pokemon cards in sleeves as opposed to playing cards. Now, the thing with the playing cards is, since they are not in sleeves, there's a significant difference in the thickness of the deck, and as well as them being 52 cards. That changes how you want to handle the cards. The other thing that's important is with sleeves, let's get these turned around the right way. With sleeves, you have an opening in the sleeve. And if you do the shuffling end to end, then there is a good chance of getting sleeves stuck, one sleeve stuck in the opening of another card, causing rippage of the sleeves. So we want to avoid that as well. And with the thickness, it's actually better to handle these rather than shuffling these head to head. It's better to shuffle them side to side for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're going to keep all your cards oriented in the same direction, and number two, you're just gonna, like I said, you're gonna have more control. You're not gonna have the damage from sleeve ends going into one sleeve going into another sleeve end. So the important thing with this, if you'll notice, you remember how much these were being bent, right? They were being bent rather significantly. When I'm shuffling these, there's not going to be much, if any, of a bend. You're basically allowing the cards to fall into each other and then pushing them together. Here's a way to tell if someone is being rough with their riffle shuffle versus gentle with the riffle shuffle, and it's all in the ears. If you're being rough and bending a lot, you're basically pushing the cards a lot, and that pushing generates force, which causes a snapping sound of the cards coming together. So listen for this. Right? You can hear that. Okay, so that was a lot of noise because of the force used. More force is going to lead to more damage. Now, if you're doing it properly, okay, hardly any noise. And that difference is what makes no damage to the deck, or at least no more damage than what you're getting from smashing decks together in the smash shuffle. Alright, so again, the trick to this is in your guiding. There's three parts to it, really, because you have three sections of your fingers. Section 1, you're guiding, here, these fingers here. These 3 fingers are on the outer edge, and they're basically holding the deck, pushing a little bit this way so you're getting a bit of a bevel. If we're getting that way a little, so the deck is not straight up and down, it's beveled slightly. The second thing is your thumb, and your thumb is critical here. So there's your thumb. Your thumb is actually the key to this whole thing, because what your thumb is going to do is going to roll off the cards. So it's not so much even this finger. This finger is here more as a guide, just to guide, to put slight pressure on the cards. See, that's the amount of pressure that I'm putting on with these. So that's the amount of bend involved. Nothing significant. The real trick is in the thumb. Let's get the thumb around the right way. Where the thumb is rotating, is rolling off, and you see the thumb is rolling off, and that slight roll is what's dropping the cards. And you're doing that on both sides, so you have this side as well, where the thumb is rolling off the cards. And again, this finger is more just to guide. You're not really pressing. See, there's no press, and there's that finger there. So there's no real press, or at least nothing significant. You could even do it without that finger touching. I'll show you. We'll put the 2 fingers up in the air, and my memory is to get these things in there. So they're not even touching, and you can do the shuffle, but you can see it's a little bit messier. So by having those fingers there, it basically helps guide the cards to the right place. And now, it's not a Pharaoh shuffle. Pharaoh shuffle is a perfect shuffle where each card is interleaved, and you don't actually want a perfect shuffle, because a perfect shuffle is going to lead you to getting your cards back to the same state they were in over a period of shuffles. So you want an imperfect shuffle. And as a matter of fact, what I'd also recommend to players is that you do at least 2 or 3 different kinds of shuffles during your shuffle. It's also good for the opponent to look for this. Let's talk about looking for cheating here. Cheating in shuffling looks like good shuffles if you don't know what to look for. And to be honest with you, I am not a good enough eye to see if somebody cheats or not. But what you can look for are things that give the opportunity for cheating versus things that don't give the opportunity for cheating. So there's an opportunity for cheating if the player is doing the same shuffle again and again and again, and not varying with other shuffles. Because doing the same shuffle again and again and again gives the opportunity to use that as a manipulation if the player is doing that. The other thing that you want to look out for is techniques that are taught online. And let me give an example here. Let me go back down to the cards. So one of the things they show online is an end-to-end shuffle. Let's bring this end to front. Where first off, it looks like it's a real shuffle up to a point, but then there's some business going on here where the top and bottom cards are held onto, and instead of actually bringing these 2 decks together, they're separated and then brought back like this. So you're not so it's actually the shuffle is undone. Now, I didn't do that well. And I didn't do that well because I haven't practiced how to cheat. But those who have practiced how to cheat do that very well, that when they're doing it quick, you can't tell that they've done it. What you can see, however, is that after they shuffle, instead of just bringing... Let's do that shuffle again. After they shuffle, instead of while you can see the cards mixed together, bringing them together, they do this thing where they kind of set on top and then bring the cards together. And that action, that extra set that they're doing, is an opportunity to do the break, do the separation of the shuffle, and bring the cards back together again. So one thing that I would recommend looking for is that when players are shuffling, because when I shuffle, there's the cards shuffled, I'm just shoving them together right there. There's no manipulation of do the bit of the shuffle and then do some fancy handwork and then bring them together. If you're doing some handwork there, if you've done the shuffle and then you're doing a little bit of handwork and then bringing the cards together, then you have to ask yourself, what's that extra little bit of handwork about? So that's something to look out for as a cheat. You may not actually see the cheat itself, but you can see the flourish, the distraction, the cover for the cheat. So keep an eye out for that. You should be able to, when somebody's shuffling properly and they're bringing the cards together, they should just be able to bring the cards together like that, and there shouldn't be any massive flourish about it. Alright, so hopefully you found that useful. As you can see now I will say that this takes practice. Anything you want to do well takes practice. It doesn't take a lot of practice, but the first time you do it, you may not be able to control the cards as well, and you may find them going around a bit. But if you take an hour or 15 minutes over a couple of nights, you should find this is not a difficult thing. You should be able to manipulate the cards in a riffle shuffle without damaging your cards. And as I said, you want to do more than one type of shuffle when you're shuffling as an indication that you're not cheating. And now a word for judges here. So we've had players and also opponents. So for judges, that's something you should be looking for as well. If a player is doing the same type of shuffle again and again and again, you want to keep an eye on that player. Now, they may not be manipulating the cards, and I'm sure in most cases they're not. However, as I've mentioned, these are opportunities to cheat, whereas if you see a player mixing up the type of shuffling they're doing, they're more likely to not be cheating because they're making it more difficult on themselves to cheat. And as a player, you want to make things more difficult to cheat, and you want to look for your opponent is making things difficult to cheat. If they're doing things that are making it easy to cheat, it doesn't mean they're cheating, but it means keep an eye on them and cut their own deck, cut their deck, and you may want to give that deck a bit of a shuffle yourself. I've mentioned before about cutting. I've seen videos where if an opponent is always cutting in the same place, a skilled card manipulator can take advantage of that to set the cards that they want to where that cut is going to be, so that they now come up to the top when the opponent is always doing the same cut. So it's going to be critical for you as an opponent to always vary where you're cutting. Sometimes cut from the middle, sometimes cut close to the top, sometimes cut close to the bottom. Sometimes don't cut at all. Just vary it up. Never be predictable. That makes things difficult on your opponent. And as I've also mentioned previously, if an opponent does not cut your deck, that does not mean you should feel bad about cutting their deck. Go ahead and cut their deck. There are those who cheat who will opt not to cut the opponent's deck to invite the opponent to incent, one might say trick the opponent into not cutting theirs either. So just always do what you're going to do regardless of what your opponent is doing to your deck, and let's have games won on the playing field and not in manipulation of the cards. Okay? Take care.